listen to your body and your inner voice. You touched based on that. You mentioned meditation and being mindful. You do all those things. So I notice with you, you have such vibrant presence and high energy. Is there any rituals that you do, or any? Would you be able to share that with us?
Sure. It's just natural for me. First of all, for my person, I spend time at night before I go to bed. I count my blessings. Okay. I'm a Christian and I believe in God. I believe we all have this quality. I do not I do not hold to any specific one necessarily for anybody else. I know what fits suits me, right? Um, but that doesn't mean I have worshipped in every temple, not every mosques, temples, tents, rivers, mountains, whatever. I've studied with shamans.
You did.
I've studied with psychics. I've I've worked on things. I've taken some training in therapeutic coaching and so forth and so on. But also, I connect every night with my higher power, and I give thanks. Sometimes, if it's really cold out and it's nice and warm and cozy in my bed, I give thanks for the quilt and the mattress and the pillow. And sometimes I don't, but I do that every night. And in the morning, when I wake up, I always say, "This is the day the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it." So, those two times, I start my day with a connection, something greater than myself. And when I say to my friends, there's someone who's sick or someone who's going through troubled times, I say, "I will pray for you." They know what I'm saying. I call their name and I ask the universe, higher power, God, whatever you want to call, to help. And the universe knows what that person needs. I don't say, "Please make so and so this."
Right.
I call their name and ask for help for them. Because sometimes people can't do that for themselves. And I'm happy to do that. Um, makes me feel good. And it also makes me feel that I'm doing something to be helpful for healing. And there are times in the world is a mess. I pray for peace, or I pray for a way to get out of this mess, or I pray for safety. So I do that on a regular basis. It's come so natural, I don't even talk about it usually. And I'm active in my church, but I'm also active in a lot of organizations to do good in the world and to be helpful and supportive. And I mean, I take care of my next door neighbor's plants when she goes away in the summer. I have another friend in my building that I feed her cats. I have another friend I dog sit. You know, to be good to your neighbor. And also, I'm very grateful. So many people. And when you travel, I like to travel. So when I travel, I always go to their spiritual homes. I just came back from India this year, and I was struck by the spirituality of all the Indian people and the people, also people in Egypt. The year before I was in Egypt, but especially in India, I saw people in small villages with 5 temples. They all worship a different god or goddess,
Right.
doesn't matter, but they respect each other's temple. They don't fuss with each other, or at least I didn't see anything of that. And I was so moved by that, you know, and the kindness to the animals. And
Yes.
in Bhutan, when you go there, all of our leaders and our guides they wouldn't even step on a bug. Now, I can't say I'm that good because I don't like spiders and stuff like that. You know, what can I say? I'm telling the truth. I don't need to get bitten by a mosquito. I have no trouble. I do not feel guilty when I kill one. But the respect, the respect for life. and we can all learn from everybody else. So that's why I love to travel, because I learn new things all the time.
Do you take your students with you to travel?
I have, yes, I have. I've done a trip. I've done a trip to France, and then I taught France. We were in the Dordogne area, and we did. I taught that, and we would go to the markets and bring it back and do that. Um, yeah, I would do that. And when I'm in the city here in New York, I would take students, who, especially private students, will go. We'll go to the farmers market, and then I'll show them how to choose their vegetables.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah. And that's really nice. It's very helpful. It's especially someone who's brand new to teach cooking and not used to marketing. You can call up. You in New York, you can call up and order anything
That's right.
on Fresh Direct and all that stuff. And some people want it already cut and chopped and done that. But I go to the farmers market because it just feeds my soul. And I talk to the farmer, and I know all their stories, and I know who's sick and who fell down and who has carpal tunnel and who has a bad shoulder. I know all that. I always check on them on the Saturday mornings. That's who I am. I'm like the girl next door in many ways, and then in many ways I'm not. Uh, but anyway, I like that. But I like to show people, like, the reason why do I choose it this way? And the people will ask me, I do it because I've had a lot of experience doing it. And believe me, for instance, like a melon, a cantaloupe, I tell you, they are the hardest things for anybody. And someone who tells you no exactly you have to do, you have to thump it 3 times, and it sounds like this and it smells like that. Hogwash. Sometimes it just tastes like a cucumber, and sometimes it tastes like a fabulous melon. I mean, you can look for signs, you know, a little spot that where it's laid in the patch, and you can see small nettings in the skin and on the rind. That's what I look for, like on eggplant. At the very end of the eggplant, I look for small oval bottoms, oval rather than round ones. And the reason why round ones are generally more the what I call a masculine,
Yes.
and the oval ones are more feminine, and so they have fewer seeds and less bitter. But those are just little snippets of things. And sometimes you can make a mistake. I mean, I've ended up with cucumbers I mean, a melon that tasted like a cucumber, right? But they're just tips. And also, you feel it a little bit, peaches and all that kind of stuff you can see. But then I guess if you know how to ripen it, then you can bring it in and save it for the week, because sometimes you don't have time to market every day. So then you put a peach with a banana in a brown paper bag on top of the counter, and it'll ripen faster. Kinds of things like that. So I like to do that. And that's really fun for me too, because sometimes I find something I don't even know what it is, or it's brand new Asian. I love going down to Chinatown. They have all these wonderful Asian vegetables and you know things that I didn't know a long time ago, and now I've learned what they are. And then I always ask everybody that's there, "Have you cooked with that?" If I don't know what it is, I say, well, "How do you cook with that?" And they'll be happy to tell you.
Janine, I want to, these are lovely insights that you're sharing, and I really appreciate that. And you had such a enriching experience throughout your life with all these fascinating things that you've done. The question that arises here is to know, how did you face the fears and the uncertainties throughout your journey that happened to you, and mostly happens to all of us?
Yes.
How did you face them? How did you move past them? What made you believe more in yourself than in your surrounding, or in the thoughts that the society or everything,
Yeah.
everybody else that feed us to do certain things? And then how did you come back to yourself and listen to your own wisdom?
That's a really good question, because it's a I'm a product of trial and error. uh, if you speak to anybody that's been in my business, we can all talk about our disasters because some of them are just outrageously disastrous. Yeah, yeah, we had them, and you learn by experience because what you do is you realize that you're not going to do that again, or you don't ever want to do that again, or I screwed up. You know, it's that it's kind of accepting that that's going to happen. Now I know for me, I can speak from my experience. I don't know if it was just innate in me that or maybe it's because I am an Aries and I'm also a Sagittarius, so that's both fire signs. I have, um, I like to take risks, but must have some kind of a plumb line that doesn't have me go so far. For instance, when I started my own school, what happened to me, I was teaching for someone else, and I was teaching all of their cooking classes. This is 1974. And the people that were cooking that I was working for fired me in the middle of at the end of a cooking class with my students still there, which shocked me. My ego went. I was I didn't know what to do. I said nothing. I said, okay, whatever. I acted like nothing happened. I'm really good in a crisis. I am good in a crisis. I fall apart maybe the next day, or maybe an hour later, or 2 hours later, or when everything is over, I can go completely wacko or nuts or just fall apart. But at the moment, I'm okay. Put me in a crisis. I can fix. I can stop the bleeding. I can do all sorts of stuff. And da 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 da. My students all left from the class, and I'm feeling lower than a footprint. That's how low I felt. But what I always did after my cooking classes, because you get so excited about teaching and all that stuff, I would walk home from that, and it was on 64th. So, and all my students knew the tour, the my journey. I would go across 64th, up Third Avenue, past the Sign of the Dove, which was a big restaurant that had open windows, and it was in June. It was a beautiful night. So I would go straight across 64th Street, and I was teaching on Lexington and walk the block, and then I would turn left and go up Third Avenue because it was well lit. And I walked by the Sign of the Dove, and the women that were there in my cooking class were sitting in the window on the corner, and they called me and they said, and I'm thinking, my ego is like, as I said, lower than a footprint, and I'm just feeling devastated in a way. And they say, come in here. We have an idea.
Huh.
So I did. We sat down at the table and they said, you start your own school. You're a fabulous teacher, and we will get the students for you. And that's how that seed started. And by the time I left, I walked on home. I came home and I told my husband this is what I was going to do. And I did it.
So that was a silver lining, basically.
Yeah, it was. It was the best thing that could have happened to me had I would have known. But I also will say that when I started, I found a space in an office building I mean, everything was word of mouth. Everything was like, students and people helped me, whatever, without making too long story. And I found a space on the fifth floor of an office building between second and third on 54th Street. So I was in the east side, but I was sort of midtown so people could come from other places. And the realtor said that it was and what I did is I built a kitchen in an office building on the fifth floor. So I found a woman who built it. I designed it myself because I was an architect minor in college. So I designed my own kitchen. It was all open. Everything was open except for the two doors underneath the sink. All the shelves were open, and it was very Scandinavian. It was all done, open shelving, pegboard all the walls, white Corian countertops. My mother was really helpful. And in the center was a huge 8 by 14 butcher block cooking area with a drop-in stove and blah, 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 blah. It was fabulous. But when I signed the lease, the realtor wanted me to sign it for 10 years.
Okay.
And I thought, oh shit, I can't be responsible. It was only $350 a month, which was peanuts when you think about it. But to me, it was this is
Back in the day.
yeah, like, oh, are you kidding? So I signed a year for 5 years lease, right? And and so I opened up my doors and I told everybody. I sent letters and cards and did all kinds of stuff. But that's how I started my company. And 5 years later, of course, I wished I'd kept that lease for 10 years because it would have been much better because of course they tripled it, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it was really very what. And then all of my business from that just grew by word of mouth. I didn't have to do anything. And I was put in the newspaper, blah, blah, blah. It's, stories they would come in and take pictures and stuff like that. So it was fun.
That was meant to be for you. And had it not been for that particular incident,
Yes.
you
Who would have
wouldn't end
known?
up being the person that you are
Who would have?
supposed to be.
Who,
Yeah,
I know. Well, who knows? And it doesn't matter because this is what happened.
right.
But also, that's another thing. You have to be willing to stay open and you have to be willing to take a chance.
Yes, that's the key.
And also experience has given me a good experience because if any time there was a disaster, especially in the catering business, if I would get a funny feeling in the bottom of my stomach when I would walk in to meet somebody, I didn't take the job
Interesting.
after a couple of bad experiences because I said, I knew this was not a good thing to start with, but I did it anyway because I thought I needed the money or I thought I should do it or I thought da 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 da. I tried to talk myself into it.
Yes,
That's not a good thing.
against your intuition. Let me ask you this then, now that we came down to this. Sometimes I feel in doubt, or I feel like the path that I might be taking is not the right path. The energy that you take from yourself by thinking
Yeah,
these
the negative.
thoughts will get you nowhere.
Right.
So what was your experience? Have you ever
Oh,
faced
yes.
these challenges that you absolutely had no idea what to do next, and you find yourself in a situation where, okay, what would be my next step? I have to do something, but I don't know what to do.
What I usually do, I usually take a long piece of legal yellow pad, put the pros and the cons.
Okay.
I do a very sort of systematic, when I make a decision, I do a systematic. What could possibly be the best thing that happens? And what could possibly be the worst? And then I see, once I've done that, then I feel very confident in making the decision whether no or yes. And then I just do it. And sometimes I do it by not, I used to use the expression, I will jump in the pool, whether there's water in it or not. But now, that's what I used to do. But now, at least I check to make sure there's water in it. So it's been experience that's given me that. I want now. Now I'm going to check it. Then I take the list and go pros and cons. But otherwise, if some idea came to me and I think, "Ooh, that sounds really great. Let me do it." I think that would be my first instinct. But now experience have taught me to be a little more. Let's just look at this. Let's stop and think. I don't have to make this decision today. I can wait 2 weeks. I can wait
See what happens.
6 months if I need to. It doesn't have to be a yes right now.
Absolutely.
And that's the difference. That's maturation, I think, and experience. Because remember, I've been living a reasonable amount of time.
My dad always would tell us, whatever decision you want to make or whatever step you want to take, just look at your footsteps and look under your feet. Make sure it's not the wobbly ground that you're
Yeah,
walking
it's
on.
not sand and you stand on a solid
Yes.
rock. Right.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. So that's very mature and wise. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
But what also too is I used to play a lot of tennis.
You
And,
did. Okay.
uh-huh. And when I played tennis, I would remind myself that Mother Earth is supporting me. because that I had to remember to keep my feet where my head was. Because if I know if my feet, in other words, when you play tennis, if you're on the wrong foot, you really are not going to hit the ball well. You've got to have both feet in the right place, right? So that was something I always, because I would, be soon to flip out or, just be on my toes or something, which would be me because, whatever, fly away. I could be a butterfly. So I would remind myself, feel Mother Earth underneath you. Something like that. It's just the same theory. It's just to remind myself to put my feet down and also to try and keep my mind where my feet are. Because if you're thinking about something else, it can cause falls. You can fall and trip and you're not even paying attention to where you're walking, especially in New York City streets, right?
That's right.
I was running for a bus once. I'll never run for a bus again. I was running for a bus. I just come from the gym. I was feeling extremely buff. I mean, I was in great shape. And I'm running for a bus, and my toe caught a piece of cement, that was raised, and I didn't see it. I was looking at the bus, not looking, caught my toe, and I felt myself horizontal with the pavement, landed on my right shoulder. I've never run for a bus since.
I'm really grateful for you for making time and sharing all this wisdom and information so generously with us. I'm going to just ask you one last question.
Okay, what?
What is your intake? What is life? What's the meaning of life to you? How do you describe life?
It's to be lived. You only have one. All I have is today. So I better take advantage of it. Do whatever I can today to either do something good for me, something good for my neighborhood, for my country, for whatever I can do. And tomorrow's another day. It's carpe diem.
Do you think we come into life with a mission?
Ooh, I don't know. I think we're put in places where we can make a difference. And it's up to us to say yes or no. But I don't know if it's preordained or I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it's up to us to take the chances and to be open. And we all have a choice. We all have a choice. We can either choose. And like some people say, why are you so positive? I said, well, you have a choice every morning. You can either be grumpy or you can be happy. You can make that choice. And sometimes, like during COVID, remember COVID? And we, like every day was the same and every day said, I could feel every symptom of COVID. I could have a sore throat. I feel I'm feverish. I feel sick, whatever. I'm sitting in my apartment, right? Or here, or just doing what normally I did. And then the minute I would take a test, I would think, oh my God, I've got it now. It's really awful. And then I could go right into that spiral if you want to. The minute I go outside my apartment door, I go down the elevator and get outside, all those symptoms left. It was classic experience. And I thought to myself, see, just get up, get out, put your sneakers on and get walking. Get outside. And then you see the sun, clouds, this blue sky. And I live right here on the river, right? I go up and down the river and I put whatever I don't want to remember and all the nasty things, the terrible things that you hear, put it in the river. And then I would send positive things. I'd say, thank you, God, for the trees. Thank you, God, for that beautiful hibiscus. I would just thank the universe for being there, the trees and so forth. And it would make my whole life, I'd come back in, I was a happy camper.
So lovely.
But that's a choice. Or you could sit still on your sofa and grumble.
Tony Robbins always says that you cannot feel two things simultaneously in your heart. Either you are grateful, either you are angry and being a victim of your circumstance.
Some of that I don't agree 100% because I think we're all complicated and we can have both feelings. Depends upon the hour. Maybe not at the same exact minute.
No, that's like at the exact same instance, you cannot feel
Yeah,
ungrateful and
yeah,
grateful at the same time. It's
right.
yeah,
Once you say thank you, or once you say take a look, I remember the thought. And then I can still see it in my mind. I was walking on a city street. And city streets aren't really so. Some of them are not beautiful. And I saw this grandmother with her grandchild, and this little boy who reminded me of my son, a little blonde boy, going up to the tree and putting both of his hands on the trunk and feeling the bark. And he's looking at it, he's examining the bark on this tree. And I thought, isn't that amazing? He's experiencing the bark of the tree. What a simple, wonderful way of giving thanks. I've never forgotten that. It was just the the curiosity of a child
yeah,
teaches a lot, and so do dogs.
I 100% agree with you. They're not in their heads, they are operating from their hearts. That's
They
why
don't know. They don't have all the complications that we do. They don't need
they
to.
don't they don't yeah, they don't have egos or anything like that that will come in.
Well, some dogs are a little.
Egoistic dogs. Well, Janine, thank you so much for your time, for
You're welcome.
such a wonderful and pleasant talk that I had with you. I really appreciate that. I'm very grateful for you.
Thank you. This was fun.
It was really
I
fun.
love sharing. I love sharing.